You're all a bunch of
Bruh.
You know why? You don't have the guts to be what you want to be. You need people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fucking fingers and say, that's the bad guy. So, what'll I make you? Good? You're not good. You just know how to hide, how to lie. Me, I don't have that problem. Me, I always tell the truth, even when I lie.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Film Bros Podcast. My name is Isaiah Lucas, and I'm joined by my co-hosts.
Abraham.
And Nick.
How you guys doing tonight?
Good. It feels good to have you back.
Yeah, back in the flesh.
Got a good intro going.
Yeah, we got a good intro. My intro was
guys-
bad.
Not even.
That
Not
cadence was great, man.
even. I'm just happy you guys can see me.
yeah.
Yeah.
Back when I watched it, I was like, bro, my monitor on my PC is too bright, bro. I look like a ghost.
It was, I was telling you.
Yeah, it was rough.
White face, but yeah.
I'm good.
We did
Yeah.
what we had to do.
Yeah,
How you feeling? You
made it
good?
work. I'm feeling 10 times better, which is good. Like I said last episode, I ended up getting COVID, and first time I ever got it, and luckily the vaccinations worked and didn't give me the worst side effects, or whenever I got it, it didn't give me the worst symptoms or anything like that. I just got the typical cough. My back hurt like crazy, and I got fatigue and all that stuff, but feeling much better now.
The basics.
Yep.
Good.
So good to be back. I'm glad to be back in the room with you guys and to have better audio quality. And not only that, like, I just felt so like alone talking about the movie like in a different room and like not being able to be here amongst you guys. So I'm excited to talk about this movie with you guys. And
What a movie
get
to come
into
back
the
to.
swing.
I said, what a movie to come back to. Like,
Oh yeah.
whew.
Yeah, seriously.
This is an insane movie.
Now, how many times have you watched this, AB?
I want to say like 2 or 3. This is not that many.
Okay.
Yeah, this is only my second time watching it as well.
This is my first
This
time
is your
watching.
first.
So this is brand new to me, all of this information.
This is a new world for you.
It is.
Yeah, when I watched this movie the first time, it was streaming on Netflix. So it was like quite a long time ago, and I was living with my parents still, and I remember just like sitting on my bed just watching the whole thing. Because it was, it's this movie that we're going to be talking about, it's like a cultural phenomenon. Like, anytime I think of the movie that we're about to talk about, I always think of like kids who wore the like rip-off tees with like Peter Griffin. Like,
Oh,
you know what I'm talking about?
No.
Or he's like Peter Griffin and like Brian is like right next to him, and he's like holding the gun, and it says like Family Guy across it in like the red
Dude,
lettering.
like, what about? Do you remember like the Mario and Luigi shirts when they're all decked out in chains and stuff?
Yeah.
That's what I feel like. Is it kind of like that?
Yeah, like it's definitely a shirt you can go to like a liquor store and they're like have it like hanging up and you can
Bro.
just buy them.
Yes. I
Yeah.
hate those.
Like I remember kids
Family
wearing,
Guy.
I remember kids wearing that stuff in like middle school, and it being like the rip off from the movie we're talking about today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is that movie?
Yeah, we're talking about the 1983 movie Scarface. It was directed by Brian DePalma, and it was written by 3 different people because it's adapted from a movie that came out earlier.
Yes.
Did not know that.
From 1932. So it was written by Oliver Stone, who did this one, the
Yeah, he
1983
did
version.
that adaptation.
And then Howard Hawks and Ben. I don't know how to say his last name. I don't want to.
I have it written down. His name is
Heck.
Ben Hecht.
I want to say
Think?
Heck.
Yeah.
Heck.
And Howard Hawks. They're the
Howard
original
Hawks.
writers and
Original
directors.
writers for this movie, for Scarface.
Yeah, when it came out in 32.
1932.
Yeah.
I wonder how different the story is compared to this one.
I don't know.
It's got Tony Montana in that one too, or
No, it's different.
Imagine he'd be like how old?
a man with the Scarface.
Yeah.
That's all we know.
Yeah.
Um.
But yeah, I was kind of excited to watch this again because I'd only watched it that one time, and then I ended up getting this movie one year for Christmas from my brother and sister-in-law as a Christmas gift. And like I got like 3 different films. I got this one, and then I got like a 2-film collection with like I think it's like The Green Mile and Shawshank Redemption on like 2 different discs on the same case. And then I got like Goodfellas alongside it as well. And I remember being hyped. I was like, dude, these are great movies. I'm so excited. But I never came back to Scarface once I got it physically. So this gave me the excuse to break it out and watch it.
I know this film from that classic white and black border. And you see him and he's in the white side. And it's like, I always see that on like shirts.
Yes.
Like I feel like that's a very iconic thrift store shirt that I see often. Like I don't know why.
Now imagine that with Peter Griffin on it.
Sitting there with the red lettering behind him.
No, this is what I was thinking of. The Stewie one.
No,
bro, dude,
no.
That's what I was thinking of.
He looks.
If you can see it.
I don't know if they can.
That's what I was thinking of.
Oh, I
Kids
wish I
wearing
could-
that in high school.
That's like a perfect thrift store shirt, right?
Yeah, yeah, it is.
So-
Next time I see something like that, I gotta buy it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you talked to me about it last week. That bathroom scene, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was not expecting
It's
that
so
at all.
wholesome.
Something
bruh.
out of gore.com.
Yeah, you said wholesome. I was like, what am I getting into?
Yeah, dude.
And yeah, you don't mess with Colombians, right?
No.
No.
It was
Especially their keys.
true.
Yeah. And their yayo.
Yeah.
yeah. It was more gruesome than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
But here we are.
But yeah.
What's your first I'm curious, what's your first experience with this movie?
Bro, I watched it on what channel was it? I remember I used to have Comcast before it was Xfinity. Oh, it wasn't even a channel, it was on demand.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you guys remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you had those like massive controllers.
Dude,
Yeah.
the
Like, they
massive
used to be
grade controllers.
Yes.
Those things were massive, yes. And that's I was scrolling through free movies, and that's how I found it. And it was, I want to say I was like 10 or 11, bro.
Mm.
Like I was young,
Mm.
and I remember like the major scenes about it, but
Yeah.
not that much. But I feel like this movie kind of scarred me
Yeah, what a film to watch as a young adolescent.
11-year-old.
because I could watch things now and then be like,
Been desensitized a little bit.
yeah, I like this is gonna sound really really bad, but like I was on Instagram Reels today, and there was a train just honking its horn, and I don't know where a deer comes out, and it like splats all over the.
Oh,
Jeez.
dude.
Like it was like straight up gore,
Mhm.
and I watched it and I said,
You
And
laugh.
That's filthy.
I showed Isaiah, and Isaiah said, bro,
Yeah.
It was rough.
Yeah, it's nasty.
and like things like that don't bother me anymore, and I think I kind of blame this movie for that.
Part of it. This is like a movie too, where it's like, if you watch it as a kid, you're like, you could either be like, I want to be like him, or no thanks.
Yeah.
You know? So
Yeah.
it's like it could have been formative for you.
Yeah,
You could have been
definitely.
a Tony Montana Jr.
Seriously. Yeah, walking around riding on your scooter, saying, "Who do I trust? Me."
You go, say hello to my little friend. It's your little scooter.
Chopping people's ankles with it. Going, "Dah, dah."
Bro, that's my weapon right there.
Yeah.
That's my what's it called? It's my
That's your-
sign. Cause you know how in Home Alone the wet bandits left the sink on.
Oh yeah. yeah,
Oh
yeah.
gosh. They just
My-
have,
my-
broken ankles from.
Mine is
from
broken
your
ankles from getting whipped by the scooter.
That's
they already got a plan.
All right. Well, let's talk about this movie, man. It's rated
Yeah.
R. It's currently streaming on Tubi, I think, for free. So if you use Tubi, I know there's like tons of pretty good movies that are streaming there right
I have
now.
no clue.
I don't know if I trust Tubi though. No
Like,
offense.
I think Heat is streaming on there for free. I saw Wyatt Earp was streaming on there. A couple other pretty good movies. So if you got that streaming platform, or if it's something that you trust, check it out for free. I don't know if it does it with ads or anything like that, but
Probably does.
it's on there. So
Sausage Party's on there.
Yeah, it is.
I wanna
dude.
watch
I
it,
see
but
that freaking
I've never seen that.
ad on my freaking Roku
all the time.
dude.
Okay, can I just have a bone to pick with Roku real quick?
Yeah.
It might have happened to you guys. I'm so frustrated. It's been doing it more often. I went to go and buy this movie from Apple TV or whatever. It was $3.99 to rent it, $4.99 to buy it. So I bought it. I buy it. I press play. Well, an overlay pops up from the Roku TV saying, "Press this button for more ways to watch."
Yeah.
Dude,
I'm like,
no.
I'm watching it here.
Yeah.
I literally own this. Why
Mine
are you
doesn't-
telling me this?
Yeah.
Anytime I watch a movie on my PS4, it shows up. But I'm like, how the heck does it know that I'm watching a movie on my PS4?
I don't know.
Like every time.
It's weird.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make any sense because if I'm watching it already on my preferred platform,
Why would I want to watch it anywhere else?
yes. Like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
Roku,
Especially
fix
if
your
I've
stuff.
already bought it.
Yeah.
Like, I literally bought it to watch it, and now you're saying, oh, but you could also go to Tubi.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I literally already gave you $5. Let me watch my movie.
Yeah.
And it's done that so often.
Yeah.
So, anyways, rant over.
All right. Well, let's get into this, man. It's, again, rated R, currently streaming for free on Tubi, or you can rent or buy it. I had the luxury of owning it already, so I just popped in the Blu-ray. I think it also came with like a digital code, so I let Abe
Yeah.
borrow one of my codes and watch it, stream it somewhere. Yeah, give us a little rundown and synopsis of this movie, and then let's get into it.
Yeah, this movie is about a Cuban immigrant, who comes to the land of the United States, in Florida, and is basically set his life. His goal is to get his life started and be at the tippy top of everyone. And he is determined to do it any way possible to get there, essentially. And he has to go through some things and do some things to get there. And then we realize it's not the best part. Or the tippy top is not the best
Yep.
of the world.
Grass isn't always greener on the other side.
Yeah.
Mm.
So yeah, we basically just get to see this character, who we get to find out his name is Antonio Montana. And he's, like I said, he is set to give his life the best way possible and reach the tippy top of the mountain.
Starts as a little peon, too. As a freaking
He starts at
in
the
a freaking
bottom, which is crazy.
food truck washing dishes, and he's like, oh, I'm sick of this.
Yeah.
I don't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And then he gets roped in big with some higher up drug lords.
Yeah. When chasing the bag goes wrong.
Seriously.
For
when
real.
ambition gets the better of you.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
He dipped his toes too much.
he got his feet a little too wet.
He got his
got
feet
lost
too-
in the sauce.
He got
Yeah, lost in the sauce.
That's what it was. Dude.
Oh, man, that's true.
All right, let's talk about this movie, man. You
Yeah.
want to start with your first favorite scene?
My first favorite scene is like 10, 15 minutes in. It's not even the openings. If you got anything before that, go ahead.
I don't.
But my first favorite scene is sanatorium, not sanitation.
Oh, okay. On
Stupid.
the bus.
On the bus. Basically, we get introduced. I don't know. We can talk about the opening real quick.
Yeah.
Um,
Set the scene. How is he coming over here?
he's coming over by boat. It looks like they just finally opened
Yeah,
the ports or something.
Yeah, Fidel Castro opened up like the ports to Cuba to allow people to go over to America, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And a ton of asylum seekers were coming over to Florida at the time, and Antonio Montana happens to be one of those guys.
Yeah.
And alongside, like, it has this like opening scroll in the movie, and it's like, alongside the 125,000 people that were sent, 25,000 had a criminal record,
Mhm.
or
Yeah.
something like that. And then, it shows us like all this like footage of these like immigrants on boats kind of coming over and all this stuff, and then we open up with Tony kind of getting interrogated by, what I can only assume are like, immigration agents or
Yeah.
something like that. The people are going to question him basically to try to see if he's even eligible to be here in the United
Yeah.
States.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was going to ask, you think that they did that to everybody?
Oh, yeah.
I feel like they had to.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, because they noticed a tattoo on his hand. They're like, oh, we've seen that several times.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, like I said, the way that they showed it, I don't know, it kind of felt like almost like a documentary I didn't want to watch. The way they were showing it.
Okay.
So that's why I was like, because usually we like the opening. and this is one that I didn't like. We basically get shown. He gets interviewed, and the cops are like, "What's your name?" or like, "How do you want to name yourself?" Basically, essentially, right?
Mhm.
And he's just getting interviewed, and finally we see that he gets like released. He gives this little like monologue about how he is a politics
He's like a political
like
refugee or something like that.
something. He is not on the same side as
Yeah. He's trying
Cuba.
to spin this narrative that like he is not a communist basically, and
Yeah.
that he, is trying to escape communism in Cuba.
Yeah.
Yes.
He said, whatever you can do to me is fine because Fidel Castro did it worse.
Yeah.
He did worse things to me than you could ever do.
Yeah.
And so basically the cops are like, okay, like we'll overthink it, and they finally like send him. I think they say send him to Freedom Land,
Freedom Town.
Freedom Town.
Which is literally
A
like
slum.
it's slums. It's literally under a freeway, just a bunch of tents.
Yeah, like
With-
army tents. So it's insane.
Yeah.
And so then we get introduced to his cousin, I think, right? Or his buddy.
I don't know if they're related, but they're just like they're best friends.
They become pretty much like brothers.
Yeah.
But
His name's Manny.
Manny Rivera. And the guy was, and Tony tells him, hey, what'd you tell him? He goes, oh, I told him that I worked at a sanitation place. And Tony looks at him and he goes, no, I told you to say sanatorium.
Yeah, you're supposed to be in a sanitarium, like
have like TB but are getting over it or
but
something.
you're getting over it, and you're in like a mental hospital basically.
Yeah. And basically, he told him the wrong thing. And it was just super funny because his accent is just still heavily Cuban.
Mhm.
And doesn't have the greatest English, and it was just super funny to see.
Yeah. My next one actually is in this Freedom Town. There's like so many people in this freaking little tent establishment.
Mhm.
And Tony's playing basketball with all these guys, and they're coming up. And then Manny calls him away, and he tells them about a job that he got so they can get their green cards and then get a job or something like that.
Mhm.
And he says, all we got to do is one of Fidel Castro's guys is being sent over because he thought he couldn't trust him anymore, so he sent him to jail. And he was one of his top guys, so it's our job to kill him.
Yeah.
They're basically hitmen in this little tent space, and it's funny because you get to see like the savagery already, or the lengths that Tony's willing to go. Like this is just the beginning of his character,
Yeah.
and he's already like, let's do it. Like,
Yeah.
let's kill him. You know what I mean? Already.
Yeah.
And I really like this scene of
Yeah.
them like taunting him.
When they're going libertad,
Yeah.
libertad.
I thought it was
Yeah.
cool.
I had a whole bro moment whenever the riot was happening.
Yep.
And there's straight up a film crew on top of like a truck just filming everybody just going
Recording it.
like recording it. I was like, that's insane. Dude, they're just sitting there just filming the thing.
Yeah.
Thought it was wild.
Insane.
Yeah, he gets pulled out to the tent, and Tony's not even around anywhere. You see Manny like stalking him in the background with a switchblade, and they're all they're chanting that, all of them.
Yeah.
And he slowly gets backed up and backed up and backed up, and he goes out this door, but then Tony comes in and gets him
Yeah.
real good in his stomach.
Yeah.
And then as the riot's going on, he goes out and just falls on the ground and is
Yeah,
bloody.
just kinda
That was
dies.
actually a bro moment for me because if you really think about it, there's no way in heck that anybody can notice that it was Tony Montana with so much chaos
Yeah,
that was
it's just all
happening.
this chaos. There's a whole riot that's going on. There's no way for anybody to pin it on one single person. It could have happened
Exactly.
anywhere.
Yeah, it was a perfect
It
opportunity.
was literally the perfect opportunity, perfect scenario for him to do it and get away with it.
Yeah.
And I saw that and I was just like, bro, like there's no way.
Yeah.
I was satisfied. I saw the death and I was like, I don't even know who you are, but yes.
Yeah. But in doing so, they end up getting their green cards
Yep.
and get put working behind the kitchen at some, random shop that like I know they sell like ice cream. I know it's not like a
I want to say it's like a torta shop.
I
Or
saw
they sell the Cubano sandwiches, don't they?
something like that.
I'm
I
looking
saw
at a
across the
picture
banner
right
it
now.
said like they sold helados, they sold jugos. They sold like a ton of other things. So it's maybe just
Jugos.
some like little variety shop or something. I don't know.
I thought it was a food truck, but it was an actual like.
Yeah, it was a little shop right across the street from that club.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're right. Because I'm looking at a picture, and it shows nieves, and it says mamey, guanábana, piña, plátano.
Yeah.
Yep.
Dang, I haven't heard of guanábana in so long.
But yeah, so they get stuck kind of working at this crap job. Tony's pissed about it and is like, I didn't come to America to do this, basically, and is like wanting more from the situation, right? And so from there they get a call from these guys who, potentially could have jobs for them that would make them a little bit more money. So they go to this guy named Omar, and he gives them the potential to like, hey, basically there's a ton of like marijuana that's coming in from these boats. Smuggle it for us. We'll give you $500 each.
Mm-hmm.
And Tony is like,
You're crazy.
no, it's 1,000 each. You know that. You just want more for yourself. And he kind of, steps up to them a little bit and was like, no, I want more. Like I want to be able to make some actual money in this town. And so at first they kind of give him a little grief and they're like, who do you think you are? Blah, 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 stuff. But then
About
they were
to
like,
pull the gun on him.
yeah. And then they tell him, well, you know what? Actually, maybe you can handle something for us. There's these Colombians that are supposed to be giving us like 2 keys of cocaine. I'm pretty sure from
yayo.
Yeah, of the yayo as Tony calls it.
Mm-hmm.
But they're supposed to be giving us 2 keys. We're gonna buy it with this money. You do the transaction for us.
That's it.
That's it. You'll make some money out of it. A good, decent chunk.
I think
They
it
said
says
like $5,000 or something.
Yeah, $5,000.
Yeah, and he's like $5,000 for each of you guys. You do the transaction, you'll get the money.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes into my first favorite scene, which is going to the motel.
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah.
This is a bathroom scene you guys were talking about.
Yes.
Dude, this scene is insane.
Yeah. And
They're smart too.
yes.
I love how Tony's like, I got the stuff. It's not with me, just like yours. Where's yours at?
Yeah.
It was good.
But I liked it too because like it interfuses like little bits of comedy there, where like they're pulling up and they're driving in this like huge like wide-bodied convertible on like Miami Beach. So like there's girls walking around in like swimsuits and stuff, and people enjoying the sunny day. And there's this girl that walks across the street in some bikini, and Manny's like, "Oh my gosh, look at that girl, she's beautiful." And then one of the guys in the passenger seat doesn't look immediately and sees 2 old ladies walking across the street, and he's all, "Those girls are 103." And he's like, "That's not what I was talking about, fool. Look at down there." It's just funny little things like that. But that ends up being one of Manny's downfalls. Like he's just so focused on like the women in the area that he, loses sight of what he's supposed to be doing. Mm-hmm. And like it becomes like a huge bro moment in this scene specifically because Tony says before he goes into the motel, if I'm in there for longer than 15 minutes, you got to come in there and get me because something's going down. And Manny gets distracted by some girl in a bikini, tells her come over there, and they sit there and talk and chat and everything like that. And meanwhile, homeboy's upstairs about to get hacked to death.
Literally chainsaw in half. Dude.
Yeah. But we'll lead up to that a little bit. So one of the things I really love is just the rising tension.
Yes.
Throughout this whole scene. Like immediately whenever we get introduced to these guys, there's already a little bit of tension there. Like there's like this girl like laying on the bed watching some action film and just another guy in there, and they're just kind of like, what?
Just remembering her pulling
Yeah,
her
she's
gun
all like
out.
with under the pillow and then goes, ah! And pulls up
So good.
the little Mac 10 with the fat suppressor on there.
It's so good, man.
Yeah. But the tension's already kind of there.
It is.
Like you're kind of like, I don't know who these people are. Could they potentially hurt me? And then they start kind of throwing like little jabs at one another where they're like, okay, where's the stuff? You got the stuff? And he's like, oh yeah, well, I don't have it on me. It's somewhere else. We'll have to go travel to get it. And he's like, but you got the money? And he's like, oh no, I don't have it on me either. We're going to have to go get it. So I suggest you show me where the stuff is first, and then we can go get the money. So there's already like this distrust between both Tony and the other guy that's in there doing the deal.
Mm-hmm.
And it's important to note that Tony goes up there with another one of his guys. I forget his name.
He
No.
Or
clue.
Angel,
his
right?
cousin Yeah, that's his brother or cousin. His name is I think it was Angel.
Yeah.
I think you were right.
Yeah, and he comes up with him and has him stand in the doorway and is just kind of like, hey, do you mind if he says he's his brother-in-law or something like that.
Yeah.
He's like, you mind if my brother-in-law stands outside, just keep the door open and kind of watches over things? And he's like, yeah, that's fine. It doesn't matter, right? And so basically this guy ends up sneaking up the stairs and like holding Angel hostage. And then all of a sudden that lady on the bed whips out her freaking her Mac 10.
Dude.
And then homeboy also pulls out a gun, takes Tony's. They kind of take these guys hostage and like shuffle them into the bathroom. And some straight up like cartel activity happens here. And it's wild. Like
he opens up that
briefcase,
yeah.
and the first thing you see is when he opens the briefcase, there's those 2 keys
It's right
that
there.
he was needing that he says is not here.
Mm-hmm.
So there's 2 keys, there's a gun on top of it, and the camera pans over, and there's straight up a chainsaw, like just in this briefcase.
Yes.
This guy brings it out and is like, "You want to tell me where the money is? Like, blah blah blah. I'll make you talk. Let's talk to your brother-in-law over here first." And they like handcuff him up to this pipe and make him stand in the bath, in the shower, and
Dude, it's rough.
start that thing up. And then they make him come over there and they're like, "You're gonna watch, and like you're gonna tell me where this money is, and if you don't tell me, then this is gonna happen to you."
Mm-hmm.
And they basically start like chopping this guy's freaking limbs off, and the whole time like they're making Tony watch at gunpoint, so like he's getting splattered with blood. There's just carnage all over this freaking
Straight up
bathroom.
disrespecting. Disrespect.
Yeah,
It's rough.
it's insane. I remember watching this for the first time and just being like,
Yeah.
"This is wild! I never thought in a million years I would see this happen.
Mhm.
Like, this is crazy that this is going on right now." And what I was gonna say previously about Manny, it's so frustrating watching him be distracted by this chick because his buddies are literally getting hacked up in the room, and he's just kind of like, "Oh yeah, you look good in that bathing suit," and the other guy's just sitting there just listening to music. I'm like, what are you guys good for right
Yeah.
now? Like, come on.
It's frustrating too because like he's looking at the building that they're in, and then the camera kind of zooms in, and you see the blood on the window, and you're like, "It's right there!" Like you're literally, he's about to die.
Yeah.
What your so-called brother
Yeah.
is literally about to die, and I think that's when the girl like calls him a sleazeball, and
Yeah, and
she leaves.
walks off, and then he's like, "All right, let's go check on these guys."
Yeah.
And so they end up walking up, and Manny and the other guy pull up like right at the right time, like right as Tony's about to take a freaking chainsaw.
Chainsaw to the arm,
Yeah.
bruh.
And they show up, and this whole gunfight breaks out, which is insane. It reminds me of that scene from Drive.
In the hotel.
Yeah, where like they kind of break in and there's just these guys everywhere shooting. All this stuff is going on in this tiny little enclosed area, and then they even get like led on a chase where like the guy like straight up chainsaws a door down and like smashes through the bathroom door, and then chainsaws a window open and like flops through like the window down to the staircase, and then Tony ends up getting free somehow, and like runs down and like publicly executes this
Right
guy like
head.
in the street in front of everybody. And it's cold-blooded. Like he says something to him. I forget exactly what he says, but he's like, "Okay, now it's my turn," or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
like,
because he was doing it because he did it. He watched his cousin die,
mhm.
and yeah, I think he was like, yeah, something like that. Like, okay, yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, he says something to that effect, and previously the guy's like already been kind of hurt. He's injured and he's bleeding everywhere on his like stomach and stuff, and he trips over and falls. And so Tony like runs in front of him and waits for the guy to stand back up, and then just caps him in the head with like all these people watching, and then gets in the car, gets his friends, and they just drive off. And it's just an insane like
They got the keys and the money.
Yeah, and that's important to note too, that not only did they have to not spend the money that they were given by their employer, they now also have the merchandise that they were wanting free of charge, basically.
Yeah. And that gets them introduced to Frank.
Yeah.
Because they did such a good job.
Yeah, well, no, originally Omar was asking on the phone. He was like, yeah,
Oh,
give me the
right.
stuff. And he says, no, screw you. I'm giving them directly to Frank. You're
Mhm.
going to take me to him.
You're right.
basically.
You're right. He's taking it by the reins.
Yeah. And then that's where they get to go to Frank's house. They get introduced. And then,
Frank kind of like, he's like, I'm going to take you under my wing.
yeah, basically.
And we get introduced to Frank's lover,
Yes,
Um,
Elvira.
which is Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yes.
And I love the scene when she comes down the elevator because, Tony Montana, he's all like, every time he sits down,
He's
it's
all-
like, he can't just be like a regular just sitting. He's always
He's got to, like,
slick
take up the
back
most space.
and with a cigar in his mouth. Like, he's always, like, wide and spread.
Yeah.
And he's like that. And you see this elevator come down and you don't get to see her face, but she's in this gorgeous dress
Mhm.
with this, blonde hair. And the music plays where it's like he's fallen in love. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, he sees her and he's like, absolutely heart over heels,
Yeah.
head over heels for her. And she comes out and he sees her and he's like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
And you already know, like, once he sets his mind on something, he's going to get it.
Yeah.
Like, that's the type of guy Tony is.
Yeah. He's not going to stop at anything.
No way. And it leads to the scene where they introduce each other, where they go to dinner with Frank, and they're eating food. They're talking about all the kind of craziness that they can do. What he's gonna buy him. He's like, "Oh, I'll give you $500 suits.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're gonna be taken care of."
Mhm.
And she comes down. She gets bored, and she's like hating
Yeah.
pretty much everything that's going on. And she's like, "Hey, do you want to dance?" to Frank. And Frank's like, "No, I don't dance."
Yeah.
Or he says something like,
I'd rather have a heart attack than dance.
"Yes, I'd rather have a heart attack than dance." And then she points to Tony.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Frank is like, "Yeah, get up there, go do it, go dance, be free, have fun." And he does, and they're all on this dance floor getting down, and he's like, as they're dancing, he's trying to like, "Oh, what's your name? Where are you
Yeah.
from?
Yeah.
What's your last name?" and stuff like that, trying to introduce each other. And he's like, you could already tell that he really, really likes
Yeah.
her, and he's just trying to,
He's trying to spit game.
yeah.
Yeah, I love this whole scene. This is actually my next favorite scene.
Yeah, that was
is-
my next favorite scene, which
is-
was Tony dancing.
Yeah, the whole Babylon Club getting introduced to that whole area. I just love the look and the vibe of the place. Like it's like all like drenched in neon, like pink and blue neon. There's like this 80s pop music playing in the background. Everyone's dancing, having a good time. It just looked like a fun place to be. And also I was so curious as to how they got the shots where they're sitting in the booths and there's mirrors behind them.
Without catching the
Like
camera.
yeah, I was
yeah.
I was
I thought-
watching it and I was just like, man, how are they able to get these shots
I
without these cameras being shown in the reflection of the mirrors?
I thought about that in a later scene
Okay.
because we get a shot when he's by himself in the booth with all the mirrors.
Yeah.
I was like, where the heck is the camera at?
Yeah.
I thought about that. Damn, I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah. And I just love just this whole environment that they're in. It feels so like Miami Vice,
Mhm.
like Grand Theft Auto, Vice City
It does.
type feel.
I
you
think
know?
it's funny. Yeah, I have a I have a fact about that actually.
Okay. And I also just think that Tony's dance moves are hilarious. Like he just like has two left feet and is just out there just going like just moving like a stiff board. Like he has no movement at all.
Almost like a diving board.
Yeah, and it's just super funny watching him out there dance. And then I also thought it was pretty crazy too, because once he gets out there, Frank and Omar get together and they're kind of like, "What do you think about this guy?" And
He's
Omar's like, "I think he's a jerk." Like
He's a peasant, is what
yeah.
he calls him.
He's like, "I don't like him," basically. And then Frank tells him, "I'm only willing to hire this guy because I know that he'll break his back for me, and like he'll do anything for me if I tell him to." And that's kind of what starts their relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I also thought it was super funny too. Whenever Tony is saying that he likes Elvira in the car drive back, and the whole time she's like telling him like, "I don't like you. Get that through your head."
If you're the last person I would sleep with.
Yeah, and she's like, "If I was on a desert island begging for it, you would be the last person I would ever sleep with," and all this stuff. And then it cuts, and they're driving home, and he's like, "I think she likes me, man." Like,
And Manny's all drunk. He's like,
Yeah,
"Oh
he's
yeah,
all-
how?"
yeah, and he's all,
Live.
"It's in the eyes, Chico. They never lie."
They never lie.
But it's just a super funny juxtaposition where the entire time she's like, "I would never," and then he's all, "I think she likes me, man." Yeah,
He's
love it.
lost with it, man.
Yeah,
It's pretty good.
yeah.
My next favorite scene is actually when they kill Omar.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yes. I
In
love
Bolivia.
this.
Yes, in Bolivia. So that's quite a while. I don't know if you have anything before.
No.
I do have.
We're talking about Sousa, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Omar Sousa.
I thought it was Alejandro Sousa or Sosa. Sorry, not
Sosa.
Sousa. Sosa. Because he calls him Alex later in the movie.
Yeah, I don't know. I just know it was Sosa.
Sosa.
I thought
And
it was
he's like-
Omar.
No, Omar's the guy that gets killed.
Yeah.
That gets
we're
hanged
we're
from the
talking
helicopter?
about the you know how-
Yes.
I'm
I
talking
like
about-
when I like when they kill him.
I'm talking about the guy in Bolivia that's the drug lord over there. That's Sosa.
the one who kills Oma, pretty much.
Oh,
In that,
okay.
like, tan suit.
Yes.
Yeah.
The one that kills him. But no, I didn't like Omar from the get-go.
Okay.
So when he got hanged and beat the
Dude.
crap out of, I
Sad.
was like, good. I knew there was something wrong with him. Like I didn't like him, but I didn't know why.
Yeah.
And then when he
Well, the whole reason they go over there is because Frank can't go to Bolivia
Mhm.
because he's got like some issues like with court or something
Yeah,
like that,
yeah.
right? So then Frank sends Omar and Tony on his behalf to like talk about this deal about like getting some drugs into the United States basically.
yes,
And Tony basically like takes the reins from Omar and is like, this is what's going to happen. You're going to like meet us halfway in Panama instead of like what we normally do because there's much more risk involved now between the both of us. So let's cut the risk in half and, you know, you meet us halfway basically with these drugs and then we'll take them back, sell what we can, and then give you a cut.
Mhm.
And they basically come to an agreement without Frank's knowledge. And at
Omar
that
doesn't
point,
like that.
yeah, Omar is pissed about it and is like, you're an idiot, basically. And then Sosa comes back and is like, hey, you know what? We'll get you on the helicopter and we'll drive you. You know, we'll drive you. We'll give you a ride back to Florida, and you know you'll be back. You could be back here tomorrow in time for lunch. And so they basically split each other up. And Sosa asks Tony to hang back and continue eating his lunch with him. And that's where Sosa kind of tells Tony, like, hey, I like you. I kind of like what you're doing here. I like that you're, you know, taking the reins here a little bit and all this stuff. And he's like, and I want you to see this.
Mhm.
And that's when we find out that Omar is a rat.
yeah,
Yeah, he's a police informant. And they straight up take him up in this helicopter. They're beating the crap out of him. And then they hang him.
From the helicopter.
Yeah, they hang him from the helicopter. They straight up tie a noose around this man's neck and then push him out and let him dangle, which is freaking wild.
Mhm. It's like what a rich way to die too. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like you gotta own a helicopter to do
Yeah.
this.
And spend some of your fuel freaking going up there and push this guy out and
Yeah.
all that stuff.
we shouldn't be laughing about that.
Should not be, but it was definitely a.
Rewarding death, in my
It
opinion.
was because I didn't like him either.
I don't like
yeah.
him, so it's just
But that's when we get the important information, too, that Sosa says, I'm only going to tell you this once. Like, don't F me over, basically. You have this one chance.
mm-hmm.
If you screw me over, you're going to end up like that guy,
Yep.
basically.
Yeah.
That's when Tony goes and says, I think he says something along the lines, like he only has two things in this world,
Yeah.
which is
His balls and
his
his word.
balls and his
Yeah, I
And he
don't
word.
says,
break
and I
him
don't
for
break him
no
for no
one."
one.
It's my favorite quote. But he immediately can tell. He's like, I know you're talking from the heart. That's
Mhm.
why we're still talking here.
Yeah.
How am I supposed to trust your organization if they hire people like that? And he goes,
Yeah.
I'm telling
says-
you right here.
Basically, he says, like, I never liked Omar. And, like, if you're going to talk to anybody, talk to me. You can
Mhm.
trust me.
Mm-hmm.
And that starts their whole relationship.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this scene and
Yeah.
seeing just how deep he's getting into this
Yeah.
because now he's making the plays
Yes.
for these aren't like small amounts of money. I think he goes back to say it's $75 million.
Yes.
Like these are some important plays that he's completely leaving Frank out of. The man who brought him up.
Yeah.
He's the one that's doing all of this, and now he's killing people for it. He's becoming the boss
Yes.
without Frank's knowledge, and I think
Yes.
Frank he's slowly getting more and more pissed about it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just showing the lengths that he's willing to go,
Yeah.
and it's showing that his ambition is growing, and his goal is to take over or to take what is owed to him, which is
Yes.
everything the world has to offer.
Yes.
Yep.
So that's a reason why I love this scene a lot.
Yeah, definitely.
But I don't have anything else until we get the fates of Frank and the police informant Mel.
Okay.
But I think you might have something
That's-
beforehand.
Yeah, so I like that, but I also lump that scene into everything that happens previous at the Babylon Club again. So there's a whole sequence where they go back to the Babylon Club. Frank and Tony have had this falling out with one another over this deal.
Yes.
And they see one another at the club, and they're just kind of like, it feels like it's kind of like a friendly, like, what are you doing talking to my girl type thing. But we don't know that Frank takes that much more seriously
Mhm.
than what he leads us to believe in the club. And so Tony is, sitting out there at the club kind of by himself. Manny's there. And then he also sees his sister, Gina, who is at the club dancing with some guy. And he tells Manny, keep an eye on her. I don't, want her dancing with this guy. He even tries to, go take the guy out right then and there on the dance floor as soon as he sees her.
Mhm.
And then Manny's like, dude, keep a cool head. Like, you don't need to do that. They're just dancing. They're having a fun time. Just let them be. There's no reason to take anything over the edge right now. He's not done anything. And the entire time, Tony, is just kind of in this club doing whatever. And it cuts back a lot and back and forth between a couple other scenes I'm forgetting. But my favorite scene starts off whenever they bring out Octavio, the guy in the mask, the fat guy in the mask.
Yes.
And there's this whole comedy set that happens at the club, and some guys throwing out all these cheesy one-liners and stuff and everything, and everyone's having this good old time. And they pan over, and everyone's sitting there laughing at these jokes and stuff. And then you just see Tony sitting in this booth all alone, and
He's kind of
so,
losing it.
Yeah, he's despondent
Mhm.
and is just so dejected. And I thought it was really interesting that it's going. It took up until this point of the movie to show how alone this guy is.
Mhm.
And that, while everybody's around him having a good time laughing at jokes, he's just sitting there with his head hung, not really knowing what to do.
Mhm.
Because previous to this, he saw this guy that Gina was dancing with touch her butt, and now he went in the bathroom and beat the crap out of that guy and then slapped his sister around.
Yeah.
And now he's making Manny take her back.
What do they call her real quick? His kid sister?
Yeah.
I was confused too.
Yeah,
I
that
thought it
confused
was-
me for a while.
Because it's his sister,
Yeah,
right?
it just means that she's younger than him.
But why does he say my kid sister?
Kid sister's an expression. It's just, that's my younger sister. It's my kid sister.
Yeah, I never heard it before. I was like, my kid's sister. It's like, does he have a son that had his daughter? And that's what he's calling her?
No.
I was confused. But it makes sense what you're saying.
Yeah, she's
Younger.
only 20 years old
Yeah.
in the movie.
Well, 19 at first, right?
Yeah, and then she turns 20. And, it's his little sister, so he's got this very
She's pure.
Yeah, he also has this very toxic machismo attitude, I gotta protect my girl, my sister, nobody can touch her.
Yeah.
And all this stuff. And
Well, they frame it in a way where it's he knows the people that he's surrounded with.
Yeah.
He knows the crowd, and he all he wants for her is to stay pure, to stay good. One of the only good ones left in his life.
Yeah,
right?
because I think Manny goes to say something like that. She's the purest thing in his life. That's why he's so hard on her.
okay.
Yeah,
Something
she's
like
nothing
that.
but good, and he knows the guy that she's with. He knows that he's a sleazeball. Literally taking her to the bathroom.
To make out with
to
her.
make out and do drugs.
Yeah, and so it's they frame it as he's really just trying to protect her from this horrible guy, not getting into the situation of drugs that he's into. They almost make it seem like it's more of a good thing that he's doing this. But she does kind of backfire on him and say you don't get to tell me what to do. I'm not a little girl anymore. I can choose who I want to be with. I can choose all this stuff.
Yeah.
And you're not there to begin with. So yeah whatever.
Yeah. But then, after that whole comedy set happens, the camera pans over to these two random guys who are sitting very rigid, and they're also not laughing. And the camera pans down a little bit, and you see that they have napkins hidden over these Uzis. They straight up got Uzis in their lap with these nice napkins covering them, and then you just see the freaking muzzle brake of the gun.
Mm-hmm.
And pans over there, and it cuts back and forth to Manny taking Gina home and having this conversation with her and all this stuff. And eventually this spotlight is like going all around the room, and this performer in this mask and like fat suit is going around like making people laugh and getting in the crowd and stuff. So the spotlight's all following him, and then the spotlight eventually pans over to Tony, who is just by himself in this booth, and these guys just stand up as soon as that spotlight gets on them and just just light it up and just start shooting this place to shreds. And Tony's like quick enough on his feet to where he can just kind of like duck like underneath the table, and then the shootout from here just gets crazy. Like he ends up pulling out a gun and shooting one of the guys in the leg, and then
the way that he sees to where they're at was so smart.
Yeah,
because he
everybody
else is running, and those two shooters are standing still, so he knows to look for the people who are standing still, because those are going to be the people who are not afraid. And he's, bro, so smart. I would have never thought of that.
Yeah. But, yeah, basically he takes these guys out and gets out of there quickly, and then immediately knows Frank sent these guys to try to kill me.
Yes.
And I need to go make this right, basically. I need to set things straight here. So, he goes, gets a couple of guys, calls Manny, who was, not with him at the time, tells him, get dressed, come over here. We're going to go freaking get Frank, basically. And Tony's smart, man. He
sets up that thing.
Yeah, he sets these guys up and says, like, I want you to call Frank's phone number at 3:00 sharp, and you're going to tell him, like, we messed up. We didn't get him. He got away. And they said, okay. And he's like, what are you going to do? Makes him repeat it. And then they go to Frank's office, where he has an office at an automotive dealer called Lopez Motors. And so they go in his office and basically confront him. And, like, this whole scene I love as well. I know you have it in your favorite scene category. You want to pick it up from here?
Yeah. Well, we didn't give context to who else is in the room, which is Mel.
Yes.
He is the corrupt police chief.
Yeah, and he gets introduced in that previous scene as well.
He does, yeah. He gives Tony pretty much a
ultimatum, basically.
Yeah, like an ultimatum or a deal. He says, this is our fees. If you pay it every month, we'll help you, and you help us a little bit. It's kind of like a scratch your back, we scratch. Yeah. You scratch ours, we scratch yours.
He said, like, he said, like, basically, we'll look the other way if you, like, kick us some, like, some scraps every
basically.
Now and then.
Yeah.
And the way that he says, he goes, basically, if you hear someone who's just starting out, like, give us a bust.
Yeah.
And now I was just like, bro, and it just made me think about how corrupt our system is, and I was like, maybe some of these cops are like this.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, yeah. He even goes to say, he's like, I got 8 killers, like that are wearing badges, and they'll do anything you say. All you need to do is just pay us the right amount of money. We'll look the other way, and you kick us a bust every now and then. Yeah, pretty crazy.
Yeah. So that's who Mel is. He's in the room with Frank.
And then he goes, what about the DEA and all this? The people. He goes, nah, my people got families and stuff. Just our town.
Yeah.
And I was like, dang, this guy's dirty.
Yeah. So that's why it's all the more satisfying seeing their fates, honestly, because they're in this room, they get the call right at 3:00, and Frank's like, oh, I don't know who tried to shoot you. What happened? Like, he's playing a fool.
It's funny too whenever he gets the call, because we as the audience know what the other person on the phone says, but all Frank says is, okay, don't worry, honey. I'll be home in an hour.
Yeah, he tries to make it seem like it's Elvira.
Yeah, calling him, asking him where he's at,
and we know.
Yeah,
we freaking know.
Shows 3:00 and everything,
and Tony knows too. He's kind of just pulling his chain throughout this whole thing.
Yeah,
and he starts to tell him, like, I know it was you. You're a cockroach. I'm here to
stomp you out.
Yeah, I'm here to stomp you out. And he's got his gun on him the whole time. And Frank finally kind of breaks, and he's like, you know what, I did do it. And then he starts to, like, bow down to him.
Yeah. I hate how pathetic it is, dude.
It's so...
He starts begging.
It's pitiful.
It's embarrassing.
It's so embarrassing. No, like, he straight up gets on his hands and knees and is about to kiss his shoes.
Yeah.
It's like...
oh, God.
Dude, and then the thought of, like, giving him $15 million to stay alive.
Yeah,
Be like, that's me, like, saying, Nick, I'll give you $15 million if you just disappear.
Yeah.
That's the situation there.
Yeah.
This dude is really freaking
desperate to stay alive.
Yeah.
And I love it, too, because he's like, I'm not going to kill you. And then he goes, "Hey Manny, shoot this
Yeah.
shoot this piece of crap."
Yeah,
And Manny
basically.
comes up and without hesitation just pop right in his face.
Yeah.
And I loved that because Frank was obviously in our protagonist's way.
Yes.
He was a sleazeball, not being loyal like he said he would.
Mm-hmm.
And then we, our focus transitions over to Mel, and Mel's like, "Yeah, I told him not to do any of this. He's kind of crazy for it.
Mm-hmm.
He's in over his head." And then you see freaking Tony slide the gun over to him, and he's like,
Yeah.
and Mel's kind of got this ego about him where he's like, "I'm too big to die.
Mm-hmm.
I'm too."
Because you can't. Yeah, you can't shoot a cop.
He's not only a cop but a police chief, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he's got some weight in the
Yes.
game. So if you
Yes.
kill him, they're gonna come
That's
after
a lot.
him.
That's a lot of weight coming towards you.
Or at least they should have.
Yeah.
But he's like, "Oh, what are you gonna do? You can't shoot me." And then Tony, he says something like, "Oh, you never were really even a cop." And
Yeah.
The
He
way
says,
that he
like-
shoots him, though.
He said,
It's-
like, basically, you never gave me any proof that you were a cop.
yeah,
And then just shoots him in the gut.
shoots him. In the
Yeah,
gun. He's
because
like,
he has the gun here still, and he's just chilling there and just pop. And I'm like, I wasn't expecting the way he shot him,
Mm-hmm.
and I said, "Dude, he just got shot,
Mhm.
like straight up," and it surprised me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it means big troubles down the line because he's a police chief, and that's what he says.
Yeah.
And as he's kind of bleeding out of his stomach, he's like, "Oh, you can't do any of this. I'm a cop. You can't do any of this." And then it's one of your favorite quotes because beforehand he says, "Hey, me and the wife are gonna go to vacation to London."
Yeah.
He's like, "You might just in our deal, you might throw in some
two
first class tickets
first
to-"
class round trip tickets to London alongside it.
right." And as he's
And-
dying,
Yeah, as he's dying, Tony goes up to him to shoot him one last time, and he says one of my favorite quotes where he says, "Let me pull it up here real quick." He says, "Maybe you can hand yourself one of them first class tickets to the resurrection," and then goes, "Boom!" and pops him in the head.
right in his forehead.
Yeah. It's crazy. And then I also laughed super hard when the guy Ernie is still in the room.
Dude, he's
He's sitting there shaking, and Manny goes like, "Oh, what do you want to do about Ernie?" And then Tony looks over at him and says, "You want a job, Ernie?" And then Ernie's just kind of shocked, doesn't know what to say. And then the other guy that was in the corner with the Mac 10 goes up to him and is like, "Hey, congratulations, you got a job, Ernie!" and like pats him on the back, and then he's all, "Yes, Mr. Montana."
I
yes."
think he even takes a shot afterwards.
he
He's
starts
like,
drinking that Jack Daniels, like, bro. I mean, what else are you gonna do? You just witness two people dying,
Yeah.
and you
And you
think
narrowly
it's
escape.
You think it's you next because you were there with those two
Yeah.
people before
Yeah.
everybody got there. So I would only assume I'm gonna die next.
Yep.
I witnessed two people die. They're obviously not gonna.
Yeah.
It reminds me of that
I'm pooping myself.
John Wick scene
Yeah.
where he goes up to the hotel, that bouncer's outside. He goes, "You might want to take the day off."
Yeah.
And he goes, "Thank you, sir."
Yeah. Yeah.
Those are always great scenes to watch.
Yeah. But then I even love the what happens afterwards. He goes into Frank's own home where Elvira is sleeping. He wakes her up and says, "Hey, get your stuff. Get dressed. We're getting out of here."
Mhm.
Basically. And then he's like, Frank's gone. He's not to be thought about anymore. And he goes downstairs. He's standing in Frank's living room, and this blimp passes by
Yep.
in like the blue Miami night sky, and across the blimp it says, "The world is yours."
Mhm.
And that's something that is a prevalent theme throughout the rest of the film. But I just love that whole blimp shot and him seeing that and kind of like taking that as like kind of assurance that he did the right thing, basically, and
Yeah.
that there's nothing else that can stop him.
Yeah, false hope there.
Yeah.
But yeah, seeing them die, super satisfying. They position it to be like, everyone in the room is crappy
Mhm.
and just like terrible. They're all corrupt and horrible criminals, and yet I'm still like, yeah, Tony, get him. Like, like I'm still like, I'm satisfied watching them, dying like this
Yeah.
because this is what they deserve. They're little slumbags.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was good. Even though Tony's like no better,
Yeah.
he's pretty much just as bad, if not worse, where he ends up.
Yeah, definitely.
And they always position Tony as being like this man of honor,
Yeah.
this man of
Respect.
respect.
Yeah.
He made it. He made it himself.
Yeah.
And they kind of hold that all the way up until the end
Mm-hmm.
when he starts to kind of crumble a little bit.
Yes.
And that's kind of where I'm gonna go with this if you don't have anything else.
Yeah, my last favorite scene is the ending.
And I started with Manny.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
just rough. I kind of skipped over the whole New York stuff.
Yeah, me
Yeah,
too.
New York didn't really make sense to me.
It's
It's
to me,
just- it's
I think it's a time filler.
It's a plot device to have basically Tony killed at the end.
Yeah.
And there needs to be a reason for a freaking militia of people to raid his home.
yeah.
And the only reason for that to happen would to be if he flipped on one of Sosa's guys.
Yeah.
Yep.
And didn't do what he
And-
said.
Yeah, and not do what Sosa said. So now Sosa has to take that retaliation into effect
Right.
and meet that retaliation the same way that it was given to him.
Right. His absence also kind of plays a role in kind of the distrust that builds with Manny because he leaves Manny in charge of his establishment, of everything that he has.
Yeah.
He leaves him in charge, and as he doesn't go through with it, and he's pissed off Sosa. He's getting on the phone trying to call Manny, and nobody can find him at all. Nobody. And he even gets a call to where Gina can't be found, and the mom is super worried about her. So he flies back as soon as possible, and I think he's like, at this time he's already like kind of hooked on his own product.
Yep.
So he's not really in a great mental state, and he's going crazy trying to find Gina. Goes to the mom. She says, "Oh, I've seen him on 409 Citrus Avenue or something."
Mm-hmm.
And he goes finally. He goes to this nice mansion, and who opens the door? Manny, who he sees half naked in the balcony. Gina,
Yep.
and immediately he's pissed.
Yep.
It's like the most
Gets blood red mad.
blood red mad. And if the situation wasn't what it was, he might have been more understanding and willing to listen to Manny. Because you put two and two together. Manny's not there. Gina's not there. We've already seen that little spark of a relationship. Okay, they're together somewhere doing something,
Yeah.
right? But he doesn't see any of that. He's drug fueled, rage fueled, and he pulls the gun.
Yep.
And you don't see the gun or anything. You just hear the bang.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with it.
You're okay with it?
I'm not. I
I'm
mean,
not.
it's like it's horrible because that's your brother.
Yeah, it's your homie.
That's your homie.
Just because
But
he's-
also, you warned your homie so many dang times to not touch your sister.
And that just
But at some point too, like, would you want anybody else to be with your sister?
that's my question. Like, you don't want a random person off the street.
Yeah.
Why not someone you
Why
already
not someone
know?
you already know and have respect for?
It just makes
that
sense.
you know would
you
take
already know
care of
what
her.
you already know what he's capable of. So say if one day your sister was like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I'm sick of this life. I want to do something on my own. I'm sick of tired. This girl probably can think of on her own and be like, I'm sick of being treated like I want to earn something for myself. I want to make a name of myself, not be like a wife. She could easily do that, and he'd be like, no, and beat the crap out of her.
Maybe.
I mean, we don't know that about.
Yeah, we
Manny,
don't know
though.
that. But
Like, and that's the other thing too. Like, Tony sets her up with like her own salon and all that stuff, so she still is working and all that stuff. Like in that whole montage scene, he sets her up with like a salon. They do a ribbon cutting.
Yeah, it's like
all
a
that
Gina's
stuff.
closet
Yeah,
or
yeah.
Gina's
Yeah.
cosmetics or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. So I mean, she still would technically like be having a purpose and
I don't
have
know.
work and all that stuff in a career.
And all of the characteristics that we get from their relationship of Manny and Gina is like he does treat her with respect.
Yeah.
The whole time he's trying to shield her from her. Whenever Tony slaps her, he's the one there consoling her. He takes her home and is like she's always like, I see the way you look at me. Why don't
Yeah.
you come with me? You scared of Tony? And he's trying to just like explain to her.
Mhm.
It's not that I'm scared of him. It's that you're the only thing pure and all, blah 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 all that stuff. But it's like there's always like this tenderness that he
Yeah.
had, and I just built it up. I was like, well, it almost seems perfect for him to end up with Gina, right?
Yeah. In the perfect world. Yeah.
And I only imagine just his drug fueled rage is what clouded that vision.
Yeah, well, and probably also too, like, you're not answering your phone. You're supposed to be in charge of all my operations,
True.
and you're not answering.
In a time where he was like needed to be there,
Yeah.
he wasn't.
So he's probably pissed about that.
True.
Coke doesn't help.
Not
and,
at all.
then he sees that on top of everything. That man is hot-headed and got a short fuse, and immediately pops him.
Immediately. And it's rough to hear Gina come up and like go on top of him and say, we just got married. We were gonna tell you, but it's
Yeah.
a surprise.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah.
it seems like the only couple that could truly work.
Yeah.
And maybe they'd have a shot to make something better of their lives
Yeah.
out of this relationship, you know? And it's cut short because Tony, he's too big of an ego. He
Yeah.
can't trust anyone but himself.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's was rough to see that.
Yeah. Is it bad whenever she said that, like, it was going to be a surprise? I was totally hoping that, like, Tony would have said like, well, how's that for a surprise? like something ridiculous like that.
Out of
He
yeah.
could. I feel like he would though.
Yeah.
That's something that he would do.
Yeah.
That was crazy. Just a way to start the ending was insane. 'Cause they bring him back, and
Yeah.
you know, no one's Manny, or he's the one that he's super paranoid, always watching these CT cameras.
Yeah.
And he's got a mountain
Of freaking baby powder,
Of
dude.
yee-
Yayo.
yayo on
Yeah.
his desk.
And he's just
I'm going to town
Just
on that, bro.
hitting that thing.
I loved it.
Yeah. It's
Um,
it's absolute chaos. And
Absolutely.
you know, he's in this drug-induced state of paranoia and rage and all this stuff, and then while he's doing all that, there are people that are breaking in, like hopping the fence and storming the gates basically.
Yep, taking out one by one
Yeah.
his people.
And like he has no idea what's going on because at this point this weird thing with Gina happens where like she comes in
She's just
like revealing herself basically to her brother almost.
Bro, I was so confused about that.
And she starts being like,
well, if
"Do you
nobody
wanna-
can
like,
have
if
me,
no one can have me, are you just jealous? Do you want me? Basically, are
Yeah.
you won't let any other guy touch me? Is that because you want me?" And starts having this weird kind of like incest type thing happening.
That's
But
a-
then she pulls out this gun
And
and
she's
starts
like,
shooting at him, and you know he starts freaking out and is like, "Gina, what are you doing? What are you doing?" And put the gun down, and she eventually like shoots him in like the thigh or
Mhm.
something like that. And he is freaking out. He falls down, and meanwhile that's happening, this guy is like scaling the balcony and comes up and hears these gunshots, and this guy just like sprays this MP5 and just like, dude, hits Gina
Kills.
like 8 times. Just like lights are freaking up.
Yeah.
And that starts this whole freaking gunfight that happens that's become iconic now.
Mhm.
But, you know, Tony sees his sister get all shot up. He kills this guy and then goes over to her, and she's obviously dead. And he's talking to her and saying, "I love Manny. You know, I shouldn't have done what I did, basically. And, you know, I love you and all that stuff. You're going to be okay. You're going to be fine." And while that's all happening, there are these guys trying to break in to his house and break down the door. One of his guys, his right-hand guys, is trying to get in, but the door's locked, and those guys kill him. And then that sends Tony to go get that freaking gun with the grenade launcher on it.
Uh-huh.
You get the iconic "say hello to my little friend,"
Yep.
blows the door open and just starts spraying people. It's like something almost out of like a Western.
yeah.
And, you know, he just starts shooting anyone and everyone
That moves.
that is moving.
Yep.
And, yeah, it's a super iconic, the ending of the film, but it obviously doesn't last.
Not at all.
Yeah, the Terminator freaking comes up
From behind him, just
Yeah.
slowly.
Yeah,
With
freaking
that sawed-off
blasts
shotgun.
him with a freaking double barrel.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And of
I-
course, he falls into the water,
Yeah.
and right above it
that
says,
statue says, "The world is yours."
"The
and it's
world
just
is yours."
bleeding in the little pool thing that he has right there.
How extravagant is that house he has, dude?
Yeah,
Dude,
it's
how extravagant
wild.
was Manny's house?
Yeah,
They got money.
yeah,
Money.
Yeah.
but yeah, that's Scarface for you.
Yeah.
Mhm. That's the ending.
The
Yeah.
top of the world is not the top of the world.
All that glitters is not gold.
Mm.
Well, let's get into best quotes then if we're done with favorite scenes.
Oh, man, we did a lot of them.
We did a lot of them already.
Yeah, I got a couple we haven't hit on.
Hit
The first one I have here is actually more towards the beginning of the film. It's whenever Tony's getting like interrogated by these immigration guys, and they ask him, "You ever been to a mental hospital?" And Tony says, "Yeah, on the boat over." I was laughing at that. I thought that was
Yep.
funny.
Mhm.
Well, I got one from Mel, and also I didn't hear it from Mel first, but when I heard it, I said, "Dude, that's Pitbull." But it's "Every day above ground is a good day."
Uh,
My boy Pitbull sings that too. So
Oh my
I had to
Mr.
put it
Worldwide.
there. Mr. Worldwide.
Yeah, I have there's one last quote I have with him at the very end talking to the assassins that are there. And he goes, "I'm Tony Montana. You F with me, you effing with the best."
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, Tony
Yeah.
Montana has some good ones. One of them that
Yeah.
I wrote down was, the only thing in this world that gives me orders is balls.
Yeah. Yeah. I have another one from him actually that I liked. In that scene whenever they're driving, Manny and him are driving home from the club that first time. He obviously says that iconic, "The eyes, Chico, they never lie."
Mm-hmm.
And then he says something to where it prompts him to say, "I want what's coming to me." And then Manny says, "What's coming to you?" And he says, "The world, Chico, and everything in it." And I thought that was a super good line from him. He also says another one that I loved in that whole scene with Mel and Frank. And he said, "A man who doesn't have his word is a cockroach."
Mm-hmm.
And then I think at that point he pops Mel the first time. I could be wrong though. And then lastly, his last best quote for me is, "I always tell the truth, even when I lie."
Yeah.
Which is just
That's
pretty funny.
iconic too,
Yeah.
I feel like.
It is,
Yeah.
for sure.
Any
That's
other
it.
ones?
No, we hit them all, I feel like.
All the ones I had, yep.
Okay. Last one I have was from Frank in the club where he says, "Lesson number 1, don't underestimate the other guy's greed."
Mm.
Which I thought was pretty good as well. But that's it for me.
All
So
right.
we'll get into some bro moments.
I only have a few.
I got a lot.
We talked some about mine, so that's why I only have a few left. My first one is gonna be the island scene. When he says, "You know how to get a girl in this country?"
Oh, God.
I was dying laughing at that, dude.
When he's doing his tongue
Yeah, dude,
movements.
it's so
let me
funny.
see it.
The mic's in the way. I'm thankful for this mic.
Yeah, he straight up does this little tongue flick thing, and Tony's all, "What the hell was that?"
He's like,
Yeah,
you
and then
look like a fool.
and then he tries to use it.
yeah.
Oh, that's
And
the
the-
best part. Where
and
he sits
that's
next
the
to
best
those
part.
kids and goes,
Yeah.
"Hey, watch my friend over there.
Yeah.
Watch my friend like get freaking clowned on over
Yeah.
there."
And he goes straight up to that girl,
Yeah.
and then boom.
Yeah, get smacked. Yeah.
Good, you deserve it. You don't ever do that to a girl.
Yeah.
He does
so
not
funny.
know what he's talking about.
My next one is actually, I put, "What a flex to go buy a new car because Elvira doesn't like the one you have."
That's crazy.
Yeah,
He buys the
About a Porsche.
Yep.
Yeah,
The
he straight
Porsche.
up pulls up with this old Cadillac with like this like leopard interior.
It was like zebra, bro. It was like-
Everything was like this like exotic animal print on the inside, and she was like, "I'm not gonna be caught dead in that thing."
thing looks like out of a nightmare.
No
Yeah.
offense, I wouldn't either.
Yeah, and then he's like, "Well, you don't like it?" And then goes to a freaking Porsche dealer and is like, "What about this one? You like this one? All right, Manny, give him the money. I'll buy it. Let's go somewhere." We'll
Dude, it was
catch
even a
cab."
bigger bro moment when he goes up to him and goes, "I want this one, this one, this one, this one, and all this bulletproof." I
Yeah,
was like, bruh.
yeah,
Pretty crazy.
Another one that I thought was a big moment for me was Gina flirting with Manny
okay.
when she was like, "I see the way you look at me. Like,
Yeah,
why don't
you ask me out?
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah. My other one is freaking Tony jumping on Elvira and then putting
In
on
the
her
car.
hat.
Yeah.
dude, put it on her. That's such a funny scene.
It was wild, him just jumping on her with no prompt.
None
Like-
at all. Like she didn't even tell him that she liked him at all.
Anything. He just jumps on her, starts trying to make out with
And
her.
I was like,
But then you see that she does like him.
yeah,
but
he
it's-
puts on the hat and makes her laugh. That's
Yeah.
really it.
yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
Weird.
Maybe if you share yayo with someone, that's the sign to jump on them. bro.
True, dude.
Yeah. My other ones are hearing Omar's a rat.
True.
Obviously, big bro moment. And I also put I wrote it down. Whenever Tony basically goes to the pool where Elvira's at and is like, "Hey, I like you." I don't know if you couldn't tell.
The ultimatum that he.
Yeah, and he's like, "Listen, I don't care that you're with Frank. I want you to be the mother of my kids. I want to get married to you. All this stuff. Leave Frank, and we can go do our own thing. I'll treat you better and all this stuff." And he just like kind of just like lays it out all on the table for her and is like, "This is what I want. I want you since the moment I laid my eyes on you. What do you think? Think about it."
Mhm.
I thought that was a huge bro moment.
Yeah.
For sure, yeah. Mine is them getting married afterwards
Yeah,
and seeing after Frank dies, seeing just the success that he has.
yeah.
them getting married, him having that tiger down there like he said he would.
Yeah, that whole money counter montage was what I was calling it. Is just so good.
Yeah.
It's so 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen so many memes of like people being like, when your gambling addiction finally pays off, and then like there's clips of them like on the phone surrounded by money, and they're like, like sitting there laughing and all this stuff. But that whole montage scene is just so funny to me, and it's so like 80s, because the entire time it's happening, like they're counting all this money, he's bringing these bags to the bank, and then the whole time it's playing, all you hear is push it to the limit, then it past the point of no return. Yeah, and like it's just so 80s.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was hilarious. Another bro moment for me, I don't know if you guys noticed, whenever they get introduced to Mel at the club, it's like a bar that they're at. That man is drinking milk.
Yeah, I
Dude,
saw
I
that.
thought that was funny.
I thought it was weird. I was like, what are you drinking milk at a club for?
It's very strange.
Yeah, I thought it was weird.
What kind of club would have milk?
Yeah, I don't even know. Unless you're doing like a White Russian or something like that, you know, like put in the cream and all that stuff.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. I also put down Tony getting arrested by Saddlebaum.
Yeah, that was tough. That one was rough too, because I really expected Saddlebaum to be legit.
Yeah.
Because Manny finds him. He says, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
I'm going to make this deal. And he does it, but it ends up being like...
I'm an undercover cop.
Yeah, undercover cops.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. I have one where it's like basically towards the end where him and his wife pretty much go off on each other in the restaurant.
Oh, yeah.
That's rough. Because he
Yeah.
starts to tell her, like, I've done all this stuff, and you won't even give me a baby. All the drugs you do, you probably can't even give me a baby. And it's, and obviously she's real affected by it, calling him a jack, calling him an a-hole, all this stuff. And, they get up and they start to, like, try to, like, hit each other. And there's guys trying to hold them back. And she's like, no, I'm leaving you.
Yeah.
I'm basically done.
I'm happy for her that she left.
Me too.
Yes.
Yeah.
But also, I was also siding with Tony.
How so? How can you defend that?
That was rough, dude.
I want to hear this.
Rough.
What if he actually turns out to be a good dad? What if...
I don't know. There's nothing that's making me feel like he would be a good dad.
He's killing people. He is not. He has no safe environment. Ever since he got to where he was, he's been completely paranoid.
Yeah.
Sitting at those cameras, watching those cameras.
You don't tell me for 1 second he's not going to look at his kid and be like, those kids are talking crap about me over there.
Yeah.
I'm going to go beat them up.
Yeah.
And make
I don't need
them.
him. I don't need him. I did this myself.
Yeah.
I don't need him.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No. I mean, and even if he
And
was a
she
good,
wasn't even... No.
even if he was a good dad, he in a freaking restaurant,
Yeah.
like calling out all their dirty laundry like that.
Yeah.
That was just
rough.
God, on both ends. It was rough because
Yeah.
she was wrecking him, he was wrecking her.
Yeah.
It was just an ugly scene.
Yeah, definitely. I also put down finding out that the guy that they were going to blow up in New York had a family.
Yes,
That like he got in the car and then flipped around and picked up his wife and kids.
That was
I was
a-
like, dude, they're going to blow up a whole family.
That
That's
was a-
freaking wild.
huge bro moment for me, and it built the tension heavily when I
Yeah.
saw the wife and kids get in. I was like, is he really gonna do this?
Yeah.
No, this sucks.
Yeah. And then I also put down Tony killing Alberto,
Yes,
who was the guy that was going to flick the switch, who's freaking
Hector.
yeah.
Yeah, Breaking Bad series. He does that exact.
Yeah. But him killing him I thought was wild. Tony basically is like, I'm not involving women and children. I only killed a guy. And freaking kills him instead of taking the lives of the people that Sosa wanted dead. And then lastly, Tony killing Manny.
Yeah, Manny was insane.
Yeah.
I put Gina shooting at Tony and then dying.
Oh, yeah.
Was never would have expected that to happen.
Yeah.
I thought for
definitely.
sure if there was gonna be one person to survive this, it was gonna be Gina and the mom, and that's it.
Oh.
Like the only two good things in this
People.
world.
Yeah.
And no, Gina gets pulled into it.
Honestly, respect to the mom for holding her ground and keeping
True.
her ground.
Well, at the end, she and Elvira are the only ones to live
Yeah.
True.
at the end of everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
But that's it for the bro
That-
moments.
That's it. That's it. That's it.
Yeah, that's it for me.
All right. Let's get into the facts.
Yeah, let me hit you with the budget. To make this movie, it took $25 million to make it. Opening weekend, it made $4.5 million. Gross for U.S. and Canada made $45.4 million. And gross worldwide made $65.8 million.
Things that's quite a bit.
Yeah, so it made 2 times its worth.
Yeah, I mean,
but back
especially
then,
if you think about it, like when it came out in the 80s, and for an R-rated film to make that much money,
yeah,
it's pretty wild.
It's pretty insane.
Yeah, one of the facts that I have here, actually, I'd heard before, but I didn't know the extent of it, actually. So this movie got sent to the MPAA, which is the organization that rates films, 3 times. And each time it came back, it got an X rating. So the first time the MPAA gave it an X rating, so the director, Brian DePalma, went and made some cuts and resubmitted it. Second time, they still give it an X rating. One of the reasons that they said that they give it an X rating apparently was that the Octavio the Clown got shot way too many times.
Really?
In the cut. So they were like, that's one of the reasons why it's X rated. So then the director again made further cuts and submitted it a third time. And that third time, they even still gave it an X rating. So De Palma, got some people together and went and had a meeting with the MPAA that third time and basically said, like, this needs to qualify for an R rating. Like, there's no reason why it should be rated X. So they brought in, like, a panel of experts, including real narcotics officers, who stated that not only was the film an accurate portrayal of real life in the drug underworld, but ultimately that the movie was an anti-drug film, and it should be widely seen.
Oh, wow.
This convinced the arbitrators the third submission was deemed worthy of an R rating by a vote of 18-2.
Oh, dang.
Yeah. However, De Palma surmised that if the third cut of the film was judged an R rating, then very surely the first cut should have been an R rating as well. To which the MPAA disagreed. However, since he believed the studio executives wouldn't know the differences between the different cuts, he went and released the first cut of the film, which was originally deemed X, with the R rating.
Really?
Oh, no way.
And then admitted to it later whenever the movie came out physically.
Good.
Yeah.
I had read, too, that, like, one of the things that was holding them back was that chainsaw scene, and they had to heavily, heavily edit it.
Yeah.
So it could be...
100%. I know it was going to be worse.
Fit.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine it being much worse than what it was, though.
Yeah.
I mean, other than, like, seeing the bone get chopped through.
The actual, like, gore.
Yeah, so Tony's actually little friend that he used is an M16 with an M203 40mm grenade launcher attached to the barrel, in case you wanted to know.
It's like a military-grade thing.
Yeah.
That's a military-grade weapon.
Another thing, in case you wanted to know, there was a body count of 42.
Bruh.
A lot of people did.
There's a lot of
and
people.
it's, like,
majority at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, very interesting.
Yeah. I had actually read here that I guess there's been a long running rumor that Al Pacino actually snorted real cocaine on camera.
What?
Yeah, but the cocaine that was used in the film was supposedly supposed to be powdered milk, even though the director never officially stated what the crew used as a stand-in. But whatever it was, it created a lot of problems for Al Pacino later in life in his nasal passages.
You're lying.
Swear. He went on to in an interview in 2015 to say that for years after the movie, he had things stuck up in there. And then he said, I don't know what happened to my nose, but it's been changed forever.
maybe he did snort coke.
Yeah.
No. So now we know not to snort powdered milk.
Yeah.
One thing that I wanted to bring up was so this film is a major influence on one of our favorite video games, which is Grand Theft Auto.
GTA.
And particularly Vice City, GTA, which came out in 2002, GTA Vice City. And I feel like I noticed it quite a bit, because I would see a scene in Scarface, and I'd be like, bruh, that's Vice City right there.
Mhm.
Like, I know it is. And so I read that, and I was like, of course. I'm glad I saw that.
Yeah.
This is really cool that I read about how they were able to get the guns looking way more visible and consistent as they were shooting them. Well, the props firearms were equipped with electronic synchronizing devices so that once the muzzle flash goes off, it would only go off when the camera shutter is open. So they were synchronized. So you that resulted in like you would always see the muzzle flash.
Yeah.
And it'd be a very consistent result, which not a lot of movies would do at the time.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
That's
I
pretty
saw that
cool.
and I was like, what in the world?
Yeah.
One that I thought was pretty funny, and I thought you guys would find interesting, was that John Travolta was considered for the role of Manny Ribera.
No.
You don't think so?
For
Ever
Manny?
since? Yeah.
No.
No.
I think Homeboy that did it hit it on the head.
Yeah.
I think so too. But ever since
There's
watching,
There's no way John Travolta can portray a Cuban.
Well, same thing with Al Pacino. Al Pacino's not Cuban either.
But
He's not?
No.
I thought, is he Hispanic though?
No, that man's Italian.
Well,
He's straight up like.
but he's not white.
Yeah,
He's not white.
Well, but you watch.
He's kind of white.
Yeah, he is.
But
I would,
but he's
Al
gonna
Pacino
have-
low key kind of did brown face for this movie.
But he has an accent. He's not gonna sound American.
I mean, I can put on a Cuban accent too.
Yeah.
Let me hear it.
Well,
Like that's
Tony Montana.
no, that
Yeah, like that's the same thing. You could do,
I don't know.
I mean, ever since watching Pulp Fiction,
yeah.
I really think of John Travolta fitting into a role like this,
Okay.
where he's like kind of subtle.
if I think of John
Subtle, like, as
Travolta, I
the-
think about him in freaking Wild Hogs.
Well,
That's your fault.
that's your fault. He's got a wide range.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think he could fall into this, especially as that like more subdued
Mm.
role model or like sidekick type character. I think he
Okay.
could, because I don't know. I could
Yeah,
see it
he's a sidekick. He's not a main
It'd
character.
be interesting to
Yeah.
say the least.
That's who Manny is. Although
Um,
I do love who plays Manny. I think he's
Yeah.
great. Don Eladio.
Yeah, he kills it.
He does kill it.
At the end of the film, it's actually dedicated to the original guys that made the first film in 1932, Ben Hecht and Howard Hawks. They're the original creators and writers-directors of the original Scarface. Brian DePalma's version is actually supposed to be what's considered a loose remake of the original film, which is also about the rise and fall of an American immigrant gangster. The producer of the 83 version, which we are reviewing, Martin Bregman, saw the original on late-night television and thought the idea should be modernized but still pay respect to the original film. And at the end of the film, De Palma decided to dedicate the movie to those two guys.
Well, and I don't know if you want to mention this, but you were saying something about another movie potentially coming out?
Yeah, so I saw that there is another version of this movie being worked on by the director of Call Me By Your Name and Bones and All. His name's like Luca, I forget how to say his last name. It's like Guadagnino or
Mhm.
something like that. But he's working on a remake of Scarface that's supposed to be about a Mexican immigrant who comes up in the Los Angeles underworld.
Which I think is actually going to be insane.
Yeah.
Because I feel like California is heavily influenced, or has a heavy influence on the cartels, being so close to the border, and being a heavy Hispanic state.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this is going to be insanely close to home, almost just like what movie did we watch that Sicario?
Yeah.
Sicario shows a lot of like what the cartel can actually be
Yeah.
and what is the cartel. So I feel like that is gonna heavily show a lot of like
Yeah. I think it
cartel culture.
could be extremely good.
I think it's gonna be good for sure.
And I think it could take on a life of its own potentially. Maybe like even be like its own thing rather than like a 1-to-1 remake.
Yeah,
It's definitely
I
gonna
could
have
see
its own
that.
identity. I just don't. Anytime I think of like LA gang movies and stuff like that, I think of the guy that did the Suicide Squad and how he did Training Day and all that stuff, and like how he did all of the like the cholos and like
yeah, it's like
gangsters
super
and
like
stuff
tatted
everything,
up and stuff like
yeah,
that.
like very. He went on to do that movie, The Tax Collector, with freaking Shia
It's
LaBeouf.
gonna
and it like
kill me to not know. Antoine Fuqua.
no. I'm talking about the writer.
The writer.
Training Day.
Okay,
he
yeah,
would
right,
go
yeah.
on to do terrible movies
Yes.
like Suicide Squad and Tax Collector and all that stuff. And he's like some white guy that grew up in South LA and is like,
the producer, you said?
No,
The
writer.
writer.
And he's like now he's
David
like
Ayer?
yes, dude. And he's like, just because I grew up here, that means I'm gangster too, bro. I'm cholo. And it's like,
He looks like someone who would try to be like Cholo-ish.
yeah. So
He wrote End of Watch.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
all
I'm
every
afraid-
single
yeah.
F word possible.
Yeah, and I'm afraid that like Scarface, that version will like somehow turn into like something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
I
just
can-
like
I
a
can see what
parody
you're
of
saying.
itself and
Yeah.
not necessarily taken as seriously as it should.
Yeah.
He wrote the Fast and the Furious.
I think the first one.
The
right, or
first one.
something.
Man
Yeah.
of quality. We're
Yeah.
still on facts, right? I have one last one.
All right, hit it.
He gets, at the very end of the film, Tony gets shot 10 times. That includes the shot from Gina and the final kill shot. So 10 bullets he takes, and he's still up there going, you can't kill me with your bullets.
Yeah.
Do you think you could take a gunshot?
I don't know.
Like, and I'm not saying like straight in the chest. Like, I'm saying if someone were like to shoot you for fun, like,
in the foot. I
like in
saw
the
a
Foot or
Sopranos.
leg or something.
I saw a Sopranos
no, like on the arm.
clip where he's like at a bakery or something. He goes, "You don't think I'm serious when you look at me?"
Yeah.
And he shoots that dude in the
Yeah.
foot, and I couldn't imagine the pain.
It will probably hurt like in nothing I've ever experienced, but I think I could do it.
I probably could do it. Like if it was an arm, I
Yeah.
would probably
Like,
cry
like
a little
through
yeah,
and
baby.
like
but I'd
through
be
and through.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, like if it goes through,
Like
I think
in
that's
Manny.
better, right?
Like in Manny's situation,
Yeah.
yes, it's better to go through and through.
In and out.
Yeah,
'Cause that
'cause
means
then
it
if
cauterized
If it
and
gets
stuff.
stuck, you gotta reach around, get that bullet out, cauterize the wound still,
Yeah,
all
no,
that stuff.
no,
Yeah.
I probably could do it, but I don't want to.
Well, yeah, nobody wants to get shot, but I'm just saying, do you think you could handle one? Because I think if I were to get shot, I would probably lose my life.
I would hope adrenaline would take over. Wait, what'd you say?
I would probably lose my life. If I got shot in the arm, bro,
You'd lose your life.
I don't know how I would
No,
act.
your adrenaline would set in, and
Yeah.
you probably wouldn't even realize you got shot.
No, you'd probably
Like-
be like, "Hey, what's up?"
I don't know.
And you try to
dude.
dab someone up, and your arm wouldn't work.
Bro,
on
I
fire.
freak out when
Yeah.
you grab my legs. You think I can handle a
That's
gunshot?
so true. Like I could just do something.
Like like I don't get mad, but he'll like grab like you know how when friends like grab
Do
their
the
like
pressure point
yes
type
yes
thing.
he'll do like that, and I'm like I'll freak out because it just like hurts my body, not just my leg. It hurts my whole body. I'm like, dude, don't do that.
I don't think he could survive a gunshot.
Your pain tolerance is not
My
there.
pain tolerance is not there. But I feel like if I were to get shot, I think I'm just gonna freaking cry like a baby. And I think I'm gonna hurt myself more knowing that I got shot.
Mm.
Fair. Yeah. I don't think that's something we'll ever
Getting
experience.
shot's no joke, so
Yeah.
I hope it's something I never experienced.
I'm knocking
You want to try one now?
No.
knocking on some wood, man.
Yeah. All right, is that it for the facts here?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
it.
Perfect. What didn't work in this movie?
I kind of want to talk about the length.
Okay.
I don't think they need to put as much as there was in this movie.
You don't
I
feel
don't-
the length is justified?
No.
Me neither.
And I think there's just a lot of time filler space in it.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, I can agree.
Here's the thing. I do agree, but there's scenes too where it's like it's perfectly paced, and then there are scenes where it's like one specific thing that I didn't like was I didn't really like the pacing of his rise to power.
Mm.
I felt like it was insanely fast. And I don't know if you guys felt that way, but I just felt like there were scenes where it's like the scene when he went to go and buy that Porsche.
Mhm.
I was like, do you have money to do this?
Actually, I kind of
don't-
see what you're saying because there's a scene where it's like it just says 3 months later.
Mhm.
But I don't know, like,
He's
but
just
how-
wearing nicer clothes.
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah, yeah,
jewelry
yeah,
and
yeah,
all
yeah.
well,
that
he was
stuff.
already wearing a nice suit beforehand. So I was like, I don't know where he's at. Like, I don't know the respect level he has. It almost feels like he goes from here, and then all of a sudden, woof, he's already made it pretty good.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And I just didn't, I don't know, I didn't feel like he was slumming it enough for me to, like, to feel that increase in
Okay.
him. You know what
I
I mean?
get you.
It just felt kind of like he made one decision, and now he's at the top. He's
Yeah.
right next to Frank.
Yeah.
And then it just goes from there. But I'm like, where's the in between?
Yeah.
It almost felt a little quick there.
Yeah, I had written something sort of similar, but I kind of just felt like there was like a lack of cohesion throughout the entirety of the movie. Like we would see a scene that would happen that like is great, but there's only like something that like slightly ties it in, and it doesn't feel like it's the most strong tie. You know, like why did the whole thing in New York happen? What was the point? Other than that that Sosa needed him dead and he wanted Tony to do it.
That's it.
That's it. Like, there's no other reason as to why. Like, there's not, like, this guy could potentially, like, try to take us out or any of that or something
Well,
like that.
I
Like,
mean, it was kind of, he was a reporter and he had all the information on Sosa and some of the other guys in the room.
yeah.
So it was like maybe if they reported, it could,
Yeah,
you know.
I don't know. I felt like this movie like has like a ton of great scenes, but like ultimately kind of ends up feeling like a little hollow. You know, like it has this really pretty exterior. You see all these great things, all this action, this neon drenched Miami night sky, and all this stuff happening. It all looks super pretty, but like there's kind of nothing past like the look of it. You know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain the way that I was feeling about it.
I agree. I think one other thing that I really wasn't a big fan of, and you might, in fact, I think you might disagree with me. I said the gunfights aren't really that satisfying to me.
At the end,
At the end, I
we're
just,
just going.
I don't know. It just didn't feel like, and I know it's in the 80s, so I mean, you got to give it some kind of lenience there, but like, I wanted something more, and it just kind of felt like a shooting gallery, and it almost felt, I don't know, like it almost felt like all those people out there could do anything and they would still die. Like they were just like like meat bags. You know what I mean? Like it was almost like, I don't know how to explain it. I just really wasn't satisfied at the gunfighting. I just think maybe the way the camera cut when the bullets whizzed past, and the way that he kind of like, it just didn't seem very like realistic.
I think you've been playing too much Siege.
I don't know. It just, to me, it didn't, I wasn't satisfied. I did like the tension that was there. I liked seeing, you know, the culmination of his character and all that great stuff. It's just the action in that scene. I was just like, I'm not really buying it.
Okay.
It's not really connecting with me here.
Okay. I think the only other thing that I have is that I feel like a good handful of the characters here feel really underdeveloped.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I knew. I wish the time that I didn't like other.
Was your train of thought?
I did. I was looking at a picture because I'm on Film Grab thinking about some scenes. But I wish I knew with the time that with the fillers that they use to fill make it 3 hours, because there's quite a few filler scenes. I wish we got more background info on Manny, on Al Pacino, and like his family and stuff. How does his family? He says to the immigration, "I don't have any family." How is his family in Florida already? I wish with the time that we didn't have. I wish that's what that time was used for. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like Manny, like, he just gets kind of like played off to the side as like
sidelined.
He's like, oh, this guy just likes women, you know, like he doesn't really like anything else except girls. But there's definitely more to his character than just that.
Yeah,
and we don't get to explore that at all. Same
No.
thing with Elvira as well as Gina.
Yeah.
Like, Elvira, anytime she's on screen, looks miserable. But the only thing that we get to see is that she gets upset and they fight, and that's it. There's like nothing besides that shows us that she is completely unhappy with life. Like, I wish that there was a lot more depth with these characters, and that, you know, there was reason to care for them and like want them to succeed. But these are just kind of side characters to Tony Montana, who, you know, is the star of the show.
Yeah. I don't know. I wish they spent some time on developing the relationship between Manny and Gina.
Yeah, definitely.
I think we get a couple establishing scenes, but I really want to see some dialogue, see some like dates that they go on, or see just how they actually connect with each other, how they, you know, decide to get married together. Like, how are they building this relationship? It's all not shown. And I would have really liked that. It would have gotten me so much more connected to Gina and to feel way more impactful whenever she dies at the end.
Yeah,
Or to see even Manny pass away right on the, like, after his wedding.
definitely.
Whereas it kind of just feels like, yeah, they got together and like, oh, you know, but never really saw anything. It was just kind of off screen.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would have liked to have seen some of that develop a little bit more.
Definitely. Anything else for what didn't work?
I think that's it.
Yeah, that's it for me.
All right. What did work?
I will immediately start. I really enjoy the camera work here.
Yeah, me too.
There's a bunch of scenes too where it's you know, the camera is like, there was one where it was at the beginning when you know, they're at the hotel, or not the hotel, it's like that bar, but they're in the shop below.
Yeah.
But the camera is up here
on this like mural.
Yeah, and it
then
like
fades out.
Zooms out. It goes down to like the kind of the trashy place they're at, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just there's camera work scenes like that. Like there's one where it zooms in heavy into this like building way out there.
Yeah.
And it's just super interesting, and it's always like these very slow panning, establishing shots.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it adds to the length, but I think these are the things that I wouldn't cut
Yeah.
because it's something that keeps you engaged. It's really interesting, and it's
Yeah.
like a part of the craft. You
Yeah.
know, it's something I really appreciated.
Yeah, I also really loved the coloring to the film. I loved like all the pops of color in
There's so much
in
neon.
Miami. I love specifically like the boldness of like one of the things the scenes that really popped out to me was whenever Tony goes and confesses to Elvira that he likes her, and like all you see is like the ocean in the background, these
beach.
like beautiful
yeah, like-
green palm trees, this like bright red umbrella that she's sitting under. She's wearing this like greenish blue swimsuit, and there's like this like yellow towel draped across these things. Like it's just all these primary colors that are just popping. And like even like their wardrobe, I think of like that Hawaiian shirt that Tony wears to the motel, and like it's like this like beautiful bright red with all these like, you know, tropical patterns on it and stuff and everything. That's another thing that really worked for me too, was the wardrobe department.
Dude.
Mm-hmm.
Like all the outfits and clothing that everyone wears in this, just
I want to
is
dress
fire.
like that.
And they really hit it on the head, and I just enjoyed just all the outfits and all that stuff too. I thought that was great.
I wish I could be comfortable with my meat hanging out. You know,
Yeah, freaking open up 4 buttons and let my hairy chest
All
hang
the
out.
way down.
all
like
that
I wish I was comfortable enough to do that.
stuff. Yeah.
One thing that I really did like about this movie is an entertainment movie.
Yeah, it's definitely entertaining.
And for me, I always wanted more and more and more.
Okay.
Does that make sense? And I think that's something that worked for this movie because it's just like you're invested and you just want more to happen.
Mm.
At least that's what I felt in in quite a bit of the movie. For you, you said the gunfights didn't work. I wanted more gunfights. I wanted to see like
Even if the movie would have potentially been longer.
maybe take out some scenes, maybe substitute.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, I don't know.
Sure.
I just wanted more like, I guess I wanted more action, but it was like, I still was satisfied with the amount of action I had.
Okay. I see.
Yeah. I was just going to say, I think this is a really, just a really good character study. A really good, like, deep dive into a villain, into what makes him that way, into some of the ways that his, personality gets in the way
Mm-hmm.
of his success. Because he really could have had it all.
Mm-hmm.
He really could have had the whole world. But his greed gets in the way, his ego gets in the way, and just his overall lavishness and inability to just like not be extravagant.
Yeah.
Literally everything in his life is 10 times above what he needs.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's only when he has it all he starts to become paranoid. His wife hates him.
Mm-hmm.
He's starting to distrust even his most loyal members.
Yep.
And it's all because, one, I think he's hooked on his
Drugs.
own supply, his
Yeah.
drugs, which is not helping, but it's just his ego
Yeah.
is getting in the way. He said, I built this. I don't need anyone else. They can't do it for me. I did it. I don't trust anyone except myself.
Yeah.
And I just think it's a really good character study on that stuff. And I think they really, establish him as a character, and then you get to see all he goes through.
Yeah.
Very satisfying.
Yeah, I would agree in saying that the writing, I think, is just, it's great.
Yeah, the
It's-
writing is good.
It's pretty good here. It's a solid script, and I also think the acting is pretty good too.
Yeah.
Like Al Pacino definitely goes for it in some scenes and really goes like over the top in some aspects, but I also kind of feel like that's just the character of Tony Montana. He is this hot-headed psychopath that is just going to get lit up at any moment, and you don't know what could light him up. Like there's just anything that could set that spark, and then immediately this guy is at the top of his freaking blood red mad meter, like type thing. And I think that he really killed it, and it's kind of crazy to think that he like never got any like Oscar recognition or anything like that for this movie. But I also just have to say, like, this is like one of his most iconic roles.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like, people know Al Pacino for this and for the Godfather series.
Mhm.
And I think, or at least I guess I should say, I like to think that people probably more associate him with this movie than others.
Yeah, I feel like if I hear Al Pacino, the first movie I'm gonna think is this movie.
But yeah, other than that, I think the only other thing I had written down was I thought the music choices in this movie were fire.
I knew you were gonna say that.
Yeah,
They
like
were- yeah.
I just loved the like 80s pop music that's brought in throughout the movie. And I was actually reading something where there was in 2003, I think, this movie got re-released in theaters, and the production company wanted Brian DePalma to recut the movie and take out all the music that was in the movie originally and replace it with rap songs that were inspired by Scarface. But Brian said, "No, I'm not doing that. That's
There's
not
rap
good."
songs inspired by.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a ton of rap music that references Scarface and all that stuff and all types of gangster movies. But they wanted to replace all of the music with relevant rap music at the time, and Brian was like, "No, that's not happening."
Yeah, there was a specific song whenever he's dying at the end, and it fits the scene so well.
Yeah.
Like I walked in on you watching the tail end of it, and I just was sitting there thinking, soundtrack here is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
It fits it perfectly.
Yeah, it's a lot of like synth work,
It is.
and it's also like there's strings, and it feels very like airy and atmospheric at some points, but also gets like sinister and like dark and heavy. And then, whenever other songs are used that are, you would hear on like the radio in the 80s, like it just feels like it encapsulates this entire era. And I just thought that everything selected there was just a good choice.
Yep, me too.
Anything else for what did work?
That's it for me.
All right. Who wins the movie?
Al Pacino.
I think it goes without saying.
You gonna do Al Pacino?
Yeah.
I gotta give a second to Stephen Bauer though, as Manny.
As Manny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he is great, and I think about his role in Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. I love him. He's such a good, solid, strong actor, and I think he does a really good job in this as well.
Okay.
So,
What are some themes here? I had written down the obvious. Greed is the thief of joy.
yeah,
Money is the root of all evil.
yeah. Greed takes and takes until there's nothing left to take.
Yep.
It's all about that.
I think that's, pretty much it.
Don't
Right.
let your ego get in the way either.
Yeah. Stay down. Be humble.
Sit down. Be humble.
Yeah, there's plenty of stuff like that.
What are we rating this?
I want to hear what you say, Nick. This is your first time.
I'm gonna give it a solid 7,
All right.
right in the middle. 7.
I'm going to give it an 8.
I gave it a 7.
Oh,
Okay.
really?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
thought it was gonna be a little more harsh than
I
you.
gave it a 7.
Okay.
And it's a good movie. It's a good movie.
Mhm.
I just wish it wasn't as long. And yeah, it's a good movie. That's all there is to it.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
It's like you guys say, it's above a 5. I would still recommend this movie to certain people, and it's definitely a movie.
Definitely
It's
a movie.
Definitely
I
a
love it.
movie.
There's nothing like wrong about it.
I
It's
think
just
my favorite thing about the movie is that it feels like
a movie.
It's a movie.
Yeah.
My
So-
favorite thing is that thing that happened.
Yeah.
Love that thing, man.
Dude, I can't believe it did happen.
I know. Movies.
Yeah.
Gotta love them. 7, though.
All right. Well, if that's it, then that concludes the episode, you guys. So thank you for sticking through. We do appreciate it. If you stayed all the way to the end, make sure to leave us a like and a comment on the YouTube channel. Subscribe to the channel as well. It definitely helps. We love seeing that you guys are liking what we're doing. And when you give us that feedback on either YouTube or on the audio platforms through a rate and review, it really helps. And it lets us know that we're doing something right. So if you like the stuff, let us know. If you don't like it, also let us know. Let us know how we can possibly improve. If you don't want to leave a comment on the YouTube or rate and review the show, you can reach out to us via our methods of communication in the description of the episode, whether that be Instagram, our email, our Letterboxd accounts, all that stuff. Follow us there or voice your opinions on those platforms and let us know what you think.
Yeah.
As always, we're going to reveal the next pick.
Yeah, which is your pick, Isaiah?
What do
Yes,
you
it is.
got
What are you
for
picking?
us?
We're going to go through a mind bender here. And it's a movie that actually had been recommended to us previously whenever we started
Years
this podcast
ago.
a couple of years ago.
It's crazy to see
And-
that we started this podcast 2 years ago.
Yeah.
That's what you said, a couple, and then it hit me right now. We started this podcast 2 years ago.
Yep.
It's
Gone
crazy.
through it.
Yeah, and this was one that was recommended a long time ago, and I've been really wanting to rewatch it again recently. It's one that I've only seen once.
I've
and that
never seen it.
The one time that I did watch this film was in theaters, and when I left, the movie blew my mind, and I went to In-N-Out afterwards, and then everything clicked for me, and I felt like I was like so smart in that moment that like I went and explained it to my parents who were right there with me and like all this stuff, and I remember just having such a good time with this movie and also just loving it, and I haven't returned to it since it came out. And that is a film called Interstellar. It is written and directed by Christopher Nolan and is currently streaming on Paramount Plus.
Oh, goated.
So if you have that streaming service, you have access to that film. Check it out. If you have the film physically or you want to rent it or something like that, pop it in and tune in next week to see what we have to say about Interstellar. This is actually a movie. I remember buying a copy of it at Mad Monk and then forgetting that I bought a copy
buying
of it.
another
And I
one.
bought it twice.
I think I did that too.
And then I think I ended up giving my second copy to you.
Yeah, I think I own it.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I got to check right now.
Yeah. So I have the luxury of having this film, so I'm just going to pop it in whenever the time comes and enjoy my time with it again. I'm
Yeah.
excited to revisit it. It's been a really long time.
Marv.
Yeah.
Start crying.
Camera's dead.
Sorry about it.
Well, we're right at the end anyway, so thank you guys for everything. We appreciate you, and tune in next week to see what we have to say about Interstellar. As always, this has been the Film Bros Podcast. Thank you, and good night.
Good night.
Good night.